You have found yourself on another episode of Locked On Bulls. Could the Utah Jazz be a trade partner with the Chicago Bulls for Zach LaVine? We'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, how much time does AKME realistically have to turn this team around? And then lastly, another Billy as another head coach for the Chicago Bulls in some shape, form, or fashion. We'll talk about it all and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. That's Pat the Designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central, Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. And Pat, something that's dominating the headlines for the Chicago Bulls is Zach LaVine and what's going to happen with him. And it seems like every day there's a new potential trade deal out there, trade rumor, whatever it is, until something actually happens. This is just the world that we live in. Well, Michael Saynes has an article about a potential interest from the Utah Jazz. He even has a trade idea here that would be Zach LaVine going over to the Utah Jazz for a package that includes Colin Sexton, John Collins, and a heavily protected pick. How do you feel about that?
John Collins part of it interests me. The Colin Sexton part of it, I'm a fan of Colin Sexton's game. I just don't think he fits here with what you have with Kobe White. He is a on-ball guard, and he needs the ball in his hands to operate. What was the other piece? Colin Sexton, John Collins, and who?
Heavily protected pick.
And a heavily protected pick. All right, we got those already. So just take the second at this point. But no,
you know what? I would respect it more if it's like, we're just gonna take the second, bro.
Just give us a second, bro.
Like,
we'll be protecting this pick.
Yeah.
Unless you think Zach LaVine helps him win a championship, it'd be an interesting trade. I think that maybe Utah would be it would pique their interest because you kind of saw Zach LaVine already have a little bit of a dynamic with Lowry. You know how they could work together. You've got Jordan Clarkson, I guess, in theory, still coming off of the bench in that. Don't want to see him back in that starting lineup. I don't know who you're.
That's crazy. How big of a dip?
Bro.
Like,
bro, that was
a
wild time.
That was crazy. Dip.
That was just like Jordan Clarkson can't play starting basketball. I've never seen this in my life. Like, but I just
saw Jordan Crawford. It's okay.
Jordan Crawford. Oh God. Not again. No, that's how we started.
That's a throwback.
Yeah, for real. That was hilarious. But no, I think that that'd be an interesting move. If I'm the Bulls, I'd do it. I'd pull the trigger on it in a heartbeat. If I'm the Jazz, I have some question marks on why you would go down that path. But I mean, their team's a little more built out. Maybe you feel like in a Western Conference that you're getting left behind, and Zach LaVine gives you that option, and that you can coach up Zach LaVine better than what you've done with Billy Donovan here. Also, you're putting Zach LaVine in a spot where he doesn't have somebody who DeMar DeRozan, who is as heavy on the ball as Zach would need to be. I said one ball, not two, so calm down there. I saw felt like you gave a little side eye on that one.
No, I was going to say that Zach. No, that was just me saying that. I was about to say that Zach LaVine would probably be the third option there.
Yeah.
As they have Keontae George is on the rise there, and I honestly I think
I didn't think about
because
that.
Keontae George took over the starting point guard position. They tried to move Colin Sexton to the 2, and like you said, he's better as an on-ball guard. I actually think that maybe they're looking at somebody in Zach LaVine who could be better at the things they tried to get Colin Sexton to do last year. Now, keep in mind, this is Colin Sexton. This is the guy that Pat a year and a half ago said that is him and Donovan Mitchell. I'm never letting you live that down, bro.
Hey. He came off a major injury and he's slowly working himself back into a pretty freaking good player. The problem with Young Bull is though that I think that I just thought about that. The name would be perfect for this team. The problem with him to me is though he's not going to facilitate the ball well. So if you bring him in as a point guard, he's not a point guard. He's a scoring point guard. He's a guy that absolutely can get himself to a bucket. Maybe, I mean, Billy Donovan has done well with most of the point guards that he's had, so maybe that is his specialty, and you could develop Colin Sexton more in that situation, but I just don't know if he works with Kobe White. I feel like you're going back into the old your turn, my turn type of offense if you bring Colin Sexton in here, and contrary to him almost winning a game, what was it, 3-on-5 or 3-on-8, whatever it was in college, he's not a very good defender. So, you know what I mean? You also got to take that into account. Now, I will say this, and maybe it's a role change. If you make that trade and he's okay with having a role change, I love Colin Sexton off the bench.
If Colin Sexton is willing to come off the bench, honestly,
that's a heck of a trade.
That would be a nice trade in it as well. And like you said, John Collins is a flawed player. Make no mistake about it. And he's a headache in a lot of ways, but he does bring something that we don't have a lot of. That's a legit 4.
Is he a headache? Now, my issue with John Collins is more the injuries than anything. And I don't think you get John Collins in here and you're like, this is a piece for the future. Yeah. But is he a headache though? He signed the before he signed the deal in Atlanta. He was like,
we celebrated on the carcass of John Collins. You remember that?
No, I know that. But what I'm saying, before he signed the deal, he was like, y'all can trade me if you wanted to. And then like they went to the ECF and they were like, we're gonna sign you to this deal. And he was like, well, I mean, you're gonna give me millions. I'm gonna sign the contract. So he signs the deal, and then after he's like, I still don't want to be here. And then he literally was just there for 3 more years. He was like, I hate it here. So I don't know if he's a headache or if he just hates Atlanta. One of the, you know what I mean? Like,
he might have had a wild night partying with Dwight. It might have changed his view on the city.
Oh, no. John, run. I would, but see, here's the thing, right? And I guess if the play has fallen off significantly over time, and the minutes have sort of taken a little bit of a dip as well last season. But if you can get the 21 point per game, 40% 3-point shooting John Collins in a trade, that's not bad. And I'll say this, if there is any truth to the rumor of P. Will, there's definitely opportunity for you to have John Collins step in and be your starting 4/5 type of player.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely something to that. And one thing, like he's still a headache, and I can't see him next to Vooch. So hopefully that would mean that the Bulls are looking to get some type of defender in here. But you know, it is what it is at this point. Like, do what you got to do. Is what
you got to make some changes. You got to figure some things out. I'd say, even if there's maybe, you know, I don't know if you value Torrey Craig enough to have him in front of John Collins, but even if it is a situation where John Collins basically came off of the bench last season as well. So, yeah, I mean, he's still getting 28 minutes a game, but I think that if you're looking at it in the sense of, hey, listen, this is your role now. These are the NBA players that you are at this moment. Doesn't mean you have to be that way for the rest of your career. You want to rebrand your image? You can do it here. These are 2 talented players.
Yeah. And I get it. And I know there are a lot of Bulls fans are going to look at this and say, really, that's what we're getting back for Zach LaVine? Yeah, that's where the market is.
I'm not going to lie. This is the best package I've heard for Zach LaVine in a long time.
Exactly.
Like, if I'm being 100% honest, I would almost feel like we won the deal. Now, it depends on, again, what John Collins ends up being, or not John Collins, what Colin Sexton ends up wanting his role to be. Yeah. I'm not a believer that he can play next to Kobe, but if you got Colin Sexton coming off your bench and John Collins is your starting 4 and you needed to clear money, to me, you're in a great spot.
Yeah,
because you've got 2 young players that, again, if it doesn't work out, we can move you.
And John Collins does have a player option in 2025-26, but even with that, if he accepts that, that's a year less than what you would have to pay for Zach LaVine, and less. So yeah, it could be some options there.
And if I'm not mistaken, both of these guys under 26 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So fits your timeline still perfectly. You've got the young pieces on the team. You've got young players that you're adding to your team that, you know, at a minimum will give you what you ask them to give you. Those are positive attributes. Now, again, John Collins is going to be on the floor. Nobody knows. Colin Sexton, is he going to be the Colin Sexton of when he first came in the league, or the dude that we've seen the last couple of years?
Here's the thing, though.
Nobody knows.
I'll say this. John Collins over the last 3 years has been on the floor more than Zach LaVine.
Oh, for sure.
So,
for sure.
And more than Patrick Williams. keep in mind,
Yeah,
Patrick
that's
Williams,
true,
2 out of the last 3 years, his season ended early.
Yeah.
So John Collins, 68 games played last year, 71 the year before that, and 54 the year before that. So, like,
if I send them Zach and P. Will, what else can I get?
a pat on the back.
Oh, dang it. Well, hey, that's a pause. That's crazy. Oh, what? I'm sending them P. Will and I can get a pat on the back? I'm not. No, that's unacceptable.
Wow.
I'm not letting you slide past that. No,
we're going to be talking about how much time. I mean, a literal pat on. That's crazy.
Talk about no Diddy.
The fact that you hear the phrase pat on the back, that makes me think, how many times have you been the pat on the back if that's what you're thinking? It's a little weird there.
Hey, I'll tell you this right now. Many a lady is walking around knowing what pat on the back means. You know what I'm saying?
Next up, we're going to be discussing how much time left AKME has to turn this thing around. But before we get into that, I got to talk to you guys about one of our sponsors, and that is BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Pat may need this. We all carry around different stressors, big and small. We keep them bottled up. It can start to affect us negatively. Therapy is a safe place to get things off your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever's weighing you down. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out the brief questionnaire and get matched with the licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
Oh, pat on the back is phenomenal. How many times have you been the pat on the back?
I can never see that phrase the same again, bro, ever. Like, that's
said, how many times have you been the pat on the back?
That's crazy. That is utterly wild, bro.
This is the greatest thing we've had in a while on this show.
That's crazy. Anyway, with that said, Pat, we talk about changes. We talked about the draft. Of course, we talk about trades. We just talked about a potential Zach LaVine trade. The question I want to throw to you is this one, Pat. How much time realistically do you think AKME does have? We talked a little bit about it yesterday with Mark Eversley getting the 3-year extension of that kind of being maybe that's the window that he has. But realistically, overall, your thoughts as a fan, things like that, how much time are you willing to give AK Eversley time to turn this thing around? And then what does turning it around look like for you? Because that could be the different perspective in that as well.
Are you asking how much time am I giving them, or how much time do we think they're going to have?
No, because that involves getting into the mind of Jerry Reinsdorf.
We don't have that much time. The world doesn't have that much time left. Listen, I'm not one to say that you don't get a couple of bites at the apple. I think it's time to start asking the question, when are you going to look at your front office and say, hey, when are you going to give us some answers? But I'm not one to say that one failed version of a team means that you should get fired. I think that we've seen multiple teams, or at least teams how we grew up, right? You got a couple of bites at the apple. You got a couple opportunities to try and go out there and build teams. And we're being 100% honest, Garpax built 3 teams here. Now, should they have gotten to that? Well, I guess technically they built 4 teams, but one of the teams was so horrible.
4. So we're talking about the bait.
So they built the baby Bulls.
Era.
They built the Derrick Rose Bulls.
Yep.
They, I guess, tried to add to the freaking Jimmy Butler Bulls when they brought in the Rondo and D Wade and all of that. And then they just were like the blow it up Bulls.
I guess, yeah, you're right there.
There's four different regimes in that time.
Yeah.
I'm willing to give AK another shot at this. I am, because I think that he came out very aggressive and he made some moves his first year that were like, okay, we finally got an aggressive GM. He's going to be more on the ball. My problem with AK is not that he built this team. It's that he hasn't done anything to help this team. Like,
I love that you put it that way, because what he initially built first was working. Now, I know people hang on to the fact that we were number one team. We wouldn't have stayed number one in the East. No. But the fact is that had Lonzo and Zach not had their injuries, and then that following offseason would have been able to be focused on, all right, we saw what holes this team has. Let's figure out how we're going to bring in players to help solve some of the shortcomings of this team. I do think we would have been in a much better place. But you also are judged as a front office. How well do you pivot? And right now, the pivot has been terrible.
The pivot is still the same as the start of it. Literally, right? The Darnell Mayray report, or I guess update on Lonzo Ball, is Lonzo's going to play, but we don't know when. It's the same thing we've been saying for 6 months. It's the same thing we've been saying for a year. The same thing we've been saying for a year and a half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're not updating anything. At this point, we're just like, we want to say Lonzo's name for clicks. So I don't know. Like, it's a weird situation to me that you were so aggressive in building this team. And I understand you can't just blow teams up and just, I need to see what this team is. But when you realize that the catalyst of the team, the heartbeat of the team, or the engine, I should say, of the team to put everybody in the perfect place was gone, you made no pivot on it. Your pivots have been Javon Carter, Goran Dragic.
Well, let's be clear here. In a way, he did. So Ayo Dosunmu showed some flashes when he had to step in for Lonzo initially. That season ended rough for him, and they wanted to give him a chance. It didn't work out. Then by that buyout market, they did bring in Pat Bev, who did bring a lot of what the Bulls did need, right? So that was a pivot. They decided not to hold on to Pat Bev, and then they bet on Kobe White as the starting point guard, and that kind of worked in a way. So he did pivot, but it's just it didn't have the same impact. You have to then switch what your team is to suit Lonzo was such a specific point guard that, like, it's not easy to just replicate what he brings as far as not needing a lot of shots, but hitting 3-point shots, the defensive versatility, those type of things. It's hard to replace. But I think he tried to throw more at it than what I think we realized in a very short amount of time, realistically.
But my thing is the refusal to talk to the players who maybe could have brought you what Lonzo Ball did, right? Remember, it was, should the Bulls be interested in Mike Conley? Mike Conley just went to the Western Conference Finals. The answer is yes. You know what I mean? Like that's my thing. The players you looked at, Pat Bev, fine player. I love Pat Bev. Chicago guy. Would have loved for him to be here this season. But Pat Bev is not Lonzo Ball. Pat Bev brought an order to this team that this team just did not have. Mm-hmm. He was like, listen, y'all need to do what y'all being told to do. And I don't know why y'all feel like y'all can just do whatever you want. And all of a sudden, everybody just started listening. But outside of that, I just feel like the group of point guards that we brought in reclamation projects. We brought in the G League guy that popped off that season. We brought in the old savvy vet that I don't know why we thought everybody would listen to him, and Goran Dragic. And then Billy Donovan basically said, you sit over there and don't move.
Well, no, Goran was always meant to come off the bench. I don't think he was meant to come in and be the starter there. They were betting on Ayo then. And then the Mike Conley thing, he was traded, right? Like, just because the Bulls didn't get him doesn't mean that they maybe didn't make the call, is the way that I look at that there. I understand where you're coming from, but
my thing is, though, the list of play, like, even where Mike Conley is now at, what is he, 37, 36?
36 years old.
Even where he is right now, the ilk of point guard that he's in, the Bulls aren't looking at. That's my issue with you not trying to address it. I'd say he's probably a top 15 point guard in the NBA.
Conley, I'd have to look at
probably,
point
he's
guards.
Probably still up there.
I mean, on that team, yeah. But the thing is, like, but we can't really say what they looked at, though, Pat. And I think, like, ultimately, too, like, they made a bet on a young player that they re-signed and letting Kobe play, and Kobe excelled. So
no,
like,
I'm fine with that. But my thing is, Kobe excelled because Kobe's doing what he's supposed to be doing, being the scorer.
Yeah.
That doesn't help the rest of your team. Now, he's a pretty good facilitator, but you knew what this team needed based on the first 35 games to kind of get everybody in order. And you realize that you didn't have that. I love that Kobe became a vocal leader this year. I love that he excelled, but Kobe excelling means that he's now pretty much the guy that you're going to build around. You needed a guy for 2 years that was going to help the team that you had continue to grow. And I don't think that you went out to find that guy.
But that's the thing, though, Pat. It wasn't 2 years. Like, so Lonzo went down. The very next year, Io showed some of those traits. It didn't. He brought in a new point guard at the trade at a buyout market. Your only options there at the buyout market are who you have available. The next offseason after that, they let Pat Bev walk. And then just because Kobe isn't, like, I get what you're saying and bringing in somebody who can make other players excel, but at some point, like, you got to stop looking to try to just replicate something that somebody else have. And they made a bet on a young player on a cost control contract that stepped up his game hugely, stepped up as a leader. And it doesn't mean that they're building around Kobe. It means that they're building with Kobe. And we'll see what that brings if they make smarter decisions and what the draft brings in the next couple of years.
But that's great if you're willing to say, we're going to bring in, okay, we've got these pieces here. This ain't the team that we're going to try and win with. That's not what the Bulls are saying. The Bulls are saying the DeMar DeRozans of the world, the Zach LaVines of the world. Zach just got to the point where they don't rock with him no more. But Nikola Vucevic, we want to build with this team. My problem with AK is you didn't get the point guard for the team that you're trying to build. You thought it was Io. Halfway through the season, we could see it wasn't Io. By the trade deadline, we could see it wasn't Io. And everybody was just like, well, we got to see if he's going to bounce back from this. He's got to come back. He's going to come back. Yeah, but he wasn't doing that at that point, and you weren't a competitive basketball team. And then you went into the next offseason with a guy and Kobe White that he did exactly what we said he was going to do. He's going to be one of the better scorers on the team. I'm glad that he finally showed that, but that doesn't help the team that they're trying to build. That's my point.
That's the thing. You're assuming that that's still what they're trying to build. They're trying to keep something together, but at the same time as trying to build, you have to allow, and that's one thing that we judge them for, you have to allow the opportunities for young players to excel, and then that may switch your mindset on that. So I get what you're saying, but in trying to just bring a point, if they were to try to bring in a veteran point guard, we may not seen this, Kobe. Seeing a young player that's on a cost control contract, I'm just saying I can't knock them for that by not bringing in the point guard you're talking about, because what we got could ultimately be better for the long haul of this team than getting that. Because think about it this way. Let's say you did bring in the Mike Conley, and let's say you did. All right, now you made it out the play-in. You're the 8 seed. You get eliminated. Now, from what we've seen from AK, they'll fall in love with that, and then we may have never seen Kobe and Io get to step up into the roles that they eventually stepped into this season.
I mean, listen, I think that those all are they're all valid points, but I just don't feel like they tried to repair what they lost for the team that they were trying to build. Now they're pivoting. And I'll be honest with you. If you bring Mike Conley in here and Kobe White should too, I would love to see that. And I keep using Mike Conley because he was the one that was on the trade. Just a point guard of that actually point guards. But if you bring one of those guys in here with Kobe White on the other side or whatever, we've seen those type of players flourish with that, but that's now pivoting your team, right? And that, to me, the team that they've tried to hold on to so much of, and now they're ready to move on from it. Like AK finally coming out and saying, listen, like, it don't work. After 3 years, it don't work.
You see, and that's the thing. Had they brought in Mike Conley, I don't think he would have came to that realization. So but I get what you're saying. But and then also
not work in the same way, though.
Yeah, because we saw it. Like, we have not filled the other things out. Like, at that point, you're just focused on just replacing. And then let's not act like Lonzo was operating the half-court offense. He wasn't doing that either. It was still DeMar that was primarily doing that. So if you brought in that point guard, let's say you, for the nature of the conversation, you bring in the Mike Conley aspect of it, I think then we're looking at a team that doesn't come to the realization this didn't work. I think because Mike Conley is good enough to maybe had piece melody together to where it worked enough. I think at some point it's good that they didn't do that, because now it's forced them to realize, hey, trying to keep this together to what we did, it's just too hard. And like I said, we still haven't addressed the problems on that team. That team still lacks size severely. Yeah. It still lacks rim protection. So now we spent at that point 2 years trying to just replace something, and we're still missing out on these huge aspects that even that team for 35 games that was working great, it still had these huge flaws on it.
But I agree with you on that. But I think what it does is you're at least trying to fix the team that is now broken.
Sometimes you just gotta let stuff go, though.
But
If
they
it's
won't.
broke,
That's the thing.
Sometimes
Hey,
you gotta let it go.
I get you on that, but they won't. They're trying to sign DeMar for 2 years, $80 million.
Yeah, but while they're also trying to, and that's the thing, we talked about that. We don't know when that was offered, but at the same time, they're also trying to move on from Zach LaVine, which could drastically change kind of the outlook of this team. So
that's true. Like there's a ton of things that could go into it. I just feel like AK is under. He's tried to like piece things together because he made some bad decisions and he couldn't go out and get a young player. But I just don't feel like he's done everything that he could to try and build this team. Now, is that good for us in the long run? Probably. Because now we get Kobe. Now maybe we get to see what some of these other young players can do. Hopefully Julian Phillips steps up, all of that. Hopefully all of that does happen from this, and the ugly years are just the ugly years. But it would be tough for me if I'm the GM to look at a team that I go, yeah, they need point guard play. Goran Dragic.
But Gordon was supposed to be the help out. And
so was Pat Bev, though. Pat Bev was supposed to come off the bench. He just was better than I.
No, Pat Bev was always
just
supposed to. I think at that point, no, Pat Bev was always supposed to be a starter. When you signed Pat Bev,
he did come off the bench, though.
No, Pat Bev started game one.
He definitely started in the play-in, but I think that Pat Bev was coming off of the bench for a little while in there, and then they were just like, it's not working. Like, put him in the starting lineup.
I don't think that's correct, bro. I think Pat Beverly started every game he played for the Chicago Bulls.
Maybe he did.
That half season.
Maybe he did. I feel like I thought he came off the bench the Miami game we were at.
No, he started. He definitely started that game.
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll do that every while you look that up.
I'll look it up.
We went well over all of this. Hey, before we get into this final topic, that the nepotism is crazy. Listen, we got to tell you guys all about FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. There's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
By the way, Pat Bev played 22 games for the Chicago Bulls, started all 22 games.
Shout out to Pat Bev.
Yeah, you got caught up in 2K there, brother. Yeah, you got caught up in 2K there.
I swear I remember him coming off of or maybe it was just that he was out of the start. Like they were doing like you start, but then like we gonna bring somebody in to back you up real quick. I don't know.
But with that said, last topic of the day, like you said, nepotism. Billy Donovan III will be the new head coach of the Windy City Bulls. I almost said Windy City Breeze. I'm so used to saying that, the Windy City Bulls.
I wouldn't let him coach my team.
Now, yesterday when we talked about Mark Eversley being signed, you literally was like, yeah, nothing's changing because of that. This is my moment of that. Bringing in Billy Donovan as the head coach of the Windy City Bulls, he's like, oh yeah, Billy ain't going nowhere. He's going to be here forever.
Hey, bro, that's nuts, bro. I literally saw this and I was like, man, we're really changing absolutely nothing, bro. Like, in fact, we're adding more generations of the same. Like I've never even seen this level. Like, bro, by the way, listen, I'm all for nepotism. Understand, when I am running a big company and things are going well for me, Haize is coming with me. It's gonna be nepotism. It is what it is, or vice versa. Like, I'm here for nepotism. You think I'm not gonna give my brother a job where it's just like, what does he do? I don't know. He over there somewhere. Like, that's what you do when you're rich. But the fact that this literally screams. Hey, by the way, Billy, when we get you up out of here and you're ready to go, we just gonna slide Billy right in.
It's gonna be right. Who's the new head coach of the Chicago Bulls? Billy Donovan, the third this time.
Bro.
And just as a little backstory, he does have head coaching experience. He head coach, I think, at a junior college. He's been the head video coordinator for the Chicago Bulls for the last 2 seasons. So he's been in the franchise already with nepotism. It kind of is the next logical step. I mean, if the Bulls do want to use their G League team as a true development system, they're going to keep some of the same terminology, same thing. What better person to do that than the son of the guy who's doing it? I guess.
Hey, listen. How old is Billy Donovan III?
I don't know. I have to look at that.
He got to be like 30s, right? 30s or because Billy's in his 50s.
He's 32 years old.
Okay. Now hear me out on this.
Uh-huh.
What if all of this, I'm going full Bulls meathead because we don't get many times to do this. What if all of this hiring Billy Donovan going through these years was a ploy because they saw what Billy Donovan III could do and they needed him in the organization to bring him up. But they were like, nah, he's got to learn the ropes a little bit more. Because he's kind of coming up a little Spoelstra-like.
He is. It is a
video
very
room guy,
like
G League situation. Let's get him on the bench.
Same thing with Dan Craig. Same thing with Dan Craig did the same. I mean, I've talked a lot about how I would love for the Bulls to become one of those franchises that does have somebody that moves up the tier of their organization, right? Like, and eventually, like, find the next great head coach. When I said that, I didn't think it was going to be Billy Donovan III, though. Like, that's not what I want. Like,
bro, I'm not gonna lie to you. It would be tough, bro. And I don't think that this is going. But if it ever did, when we get the news, where it's like, Billy Donovan has stepped down as the head coach of the Chicago Bulls. In his place, Billy Donovan. I just be like, you know what, Lockdown, here's my 2 weeks, bro. I'm not even working the 2 weeks. I'm just giving you 2 weeks to let you know I'm quitting because my dad told me this is how honorable men quit jobs, bro. Like,
oh man,
that would be such a wild thing to see.
Shout out for Billy Donovan always putting his son in a great situation. Keep in mind, Billy Donovan the third was a walk-on to Florida, where I believe they won a national title while he was there as well. Like,
bro, I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. It would be. I mean, listen, kids usually follow in their parents' footsteps, and oftentimes because they've got a lifetime of seeing what they go through, they usually end up being a little bit better at it than the parents sometimes. Maybe Billy Donovan III is, especially the fact that he's getting NBA coaching experience, maybe he'll be a little bit better out here. I don't know, man. But that nepotism be crazy sometimes.
Hey, bro,
nepotism is crazy. On that.
I'm just worried that Billy Donovan's going to see his son at 6'2" and be like, "Oh, you can play a little power forward for us." Go ahead and come in.
Hey, we need some center out there. How old are you? 32? 32 years old. Now, does he go by William? Is that what this is? Hey, Billy Donovan's son is. Hey, whoa! This form is crazy. Hey, that was this era in sports. Hold on. Dang it. I can't even say the picture. I gotta find a way to get that.
Oh, you talking about the jump shot? I see it. It's
bro,
weird.
That is nuts, bro.
Yeah. I mean, let's be clear. Joakim Noah did come from Florida as well, so they clearly don't work on jump shot for him too much there
at all, bro. Yeah, man. I mean, listen, shout out to him.
Yeah.
He got the squinty eyes. I bet you he laughed just like his dad.
Bro, at least he doesn't have the hairline like his dad. Bro, Billy Donovan's laugh is terrifying.
Bro, it's evil, bro.
That's terrifying.
I'm telling you, bro. Like
children, I don't use that lightly, bro. That's
children
terrifying.
Fall asleep on that laugh in fear, bro. You know what I'm saying?
It's his laugh and then it's Pennywise. Those are the two most terrifying laughs.
Oh, man. Let's get up out of here, bro. Appreciate y'all tuning in, showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. Can't wait to be able to use nepotism.
Yeah, you guys can follow me at CEO Haize. And thank you guys for tuning in. Locked On Bulls is free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, and on your Fire TV devices. For Pat the Designer, this has been Locked On Bulls. We out here. Peace, y'all.
Peace.
Pat on the back is crazy.
Hey. How often have you been a pat on the back? Oh, let me tell you.